Hooked on Life, the podcast, is a division of PN Entertainment Canada, inspiring innovation through entertainment.
The opinions expressed in Hooked on Life are for conversational purposes only. This podcast may also contain language that some may find offensive. Now, on to the show.
Hey, I'm Cindy Lynn. I'm a free spirit heading into my 50s with abandon. I was an actor, director, teacher who had a midlife break when I turned 37. I left a toxic marriage, moved across the country with 2 kids, no money, and no job. I decided to start life over again on my own terms. Found sobriety, learned to like myself, to show up for my kids, my family, and my friends. Found a home in the corporate world. Fell in love with my junior high school sweetie, Shay. I love to travel, kickbox, teach. I practice saying yes every day and love being a badass.
And I'm Shane. Shaner, or as my wife calls me, Shay Bear. I am British, and I came close to becoming an American, but I'm Canadian. I'm a musician who got lost in the lifestyle and sobered up years ago. I got married to my girlfriend from middle school, but don't worry, we were grown-ups by then. We travel a lot, we own property far, far away, and this podcast was her idea. With all that said, welcome to Hooked on Life.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening from. What was the face for?
Yeah, every time we start with there's a face. Somehow I have a face.
What is the face about?
No, there's no face. There's no face.
Well, no, there is a face.
There's no face. There's no face. Good morning, dear.
Good morning, my love. Should I start that again?
No. You started now. It's good. Everybody's here. Everybody's ready. So let's do this.
You're looking very Jesus-y over there today.
Am I?
You are. Any great prophecies that you want to bestow upon our podcast before we get started today?
No, there's none. I will be walking on water at 3:05 this afternoon, so come on down to City Square where you will see the no. And then I was going to say part the seas, but I think that was Moses. I think Moses parted the sea.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know why he did that?
To let the people go.
To let the people go.
Let
Free
my
the people
go. Is that how it goes?
Yeah,
I don't know.
there you go. Look at you.
Is that
very religious.
He wasn't singing it when he did that, though. I think he was very focused on splitting the sea.
Yeah, took a little bit of attention.
Yeah, he didn't really have time to sing.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You need time to sit down and sing.
How's your week been?
It's been good. Yeah, it's been good. I don't want to get into too many details, but there's a lot of moving parts going on right now, and the moving parts are aligning, which is very good. So yeah, it's been good. Weather is starting to come back as in warming up. So that's very good. I like warm weather, as you know. And yeah, I don't remember the last time we did an episode, but we just watched the Super Bowl a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little anticlimactic at the end, unfortunately. For me, anyway. Yeah, how's your week been?
My week has been good. And speaking of the Super Bowl, Rihanna was the Super Bowl music entertainment, which is what concerns me most about the Super Bowl.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And I was watching it with the boy. And of course, he's old enough now to really appreciate music and live performance and all of that fun stuff. So we had a fun time yesterday going through the best musical performances of the Super Bowl. So we watched everything from Michael Jackson to, of course, the Shakira J-Lo to Madonna.
Did you get the Justin Timberlake boob out moment with Janet Jackson? Okay, yeah.
We did. Although it's interesting because I don't think this generation thinks it's that big of a deal.
Well, that's a generational opinion.
Yeah. But do you know where we landed as the best Super Bowl halftime show of all time?
We, as in you and the boy.
Yes, but it is debated. Like, it is definitely up there.
Of course. Well, I'm sure it's debated, though, too.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Prince.
Okay.
And I cannot tell you how it warmed my heart to hear my son say that it was an experience to watch him.
I can't really say that I appreciated his music as much as I do now until after he passed. And then I started going, oh, yeah, let's look at some of that stuff that he did. And, all the studio work he had just outside of Minneapolis and all the other stuff that he had on all the girls in his band. He had a few girls in his band at one point. Mm-hmm. They were all girls at one point, and they were phenomenal.
Sheila E.?
Yeah, he had another girl guitar player and a keyboard player, much like Corey Feldman has girls in his band.
It is not even close to being the same thing.
I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that there were a lot of girls in his band, right?
Yeah.
It was like Bananarama with Prince or the Bangles. But even, the Bangles...
We're talking serious musicians, though, he was using.
I know, the Bangles were good, too, but no, yeah, Prince was amazing.
Yeah.
Truly amazing.
I don't think I appreciated him early on because I saw him as a pop artist. And, Purple Rain was pretty phenomenal back in the day. It wasn't until I shouldn't say my first real boyfriend, because you were my first real boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
But my first grown-up love, the elusive, who we sometimes mention in our house, Jose.
That's all we're going to say.
Jose.
He needs privacy.
He does.
He needs privacy.
Anyways, he taught me a lot about music, and he introduced me to the brilliance of Prince, and that Prince was much, much more than just a pop artist.
He was also a fan of Nirvana.
Huge fan of Nirvana.
Let's not get too pigeonholy with him.
Yes, huge fan, and some would call us the Kurt and Courtney Cobain of Red Deer.
Red Deer, Alberta.
Alberta.
All right, go Rebels. So
something to be seen.
This is around the same time where you were just explaining where I was a huge Clapton fan. I really was into Hendrix for sure as well, but I also loved Red Hot Chili Peppers around that time.
Yeah.
Well, I still do. I still do. Like, well, this was when Monday, April the 19th 1997, I was a huge fan of Elton John, but by November of 97, I hated it. No, it's not true. That's not true. I was just more focused on that music.
Yeah, well, a funny story is our girl. She has gotten into the whole rock and roll, 80s retro kind of music. And
there's somebody that's living in Sioux City, Iowa, that's listening to this right now. We're going to say a quick hello to them. And they're going to say, who the hell is our girl? So we should be specific. There is a 14-year-old girl that lives in our house, and she lives in her bedroom most of the time. And the rest of the time, she's either using the hot water in the shower or eating all the food in our fridge.
Or rolling her eyes.
Yeah, or rolling her eyes. Or talking about Stranger Things.
Yeah.
When really, I don't give a shit. I want, pass the salt and pepper, please. I want to eat my dinner. Anyway.
So otherwise, her name will be known as the daughter.
That's fair. That's fair.
And we love her so much.
She's going to grow up and listen to this when she's older, and she's going to go, you guys are such assholes.
Yeah, I
know we were.
I'm really curious if she will actually listen to the podcast. I think the boy will, but I don't know about the girl.
I think the boy does.
He does.
I don't think she does, but that's okay.
So she's been into all this music like Metallica, Slipknot, Nirvana.
A lot of the stuff before she was even born.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Queen. And, telling me about the controversy around Courtney Love and how some people felt that she killed Kurt. And I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed my cool little girl exploring music and the music that I loved, which kind of leads us into what we're going to be talking about today. Do you know anything about time capsules?
Yeah, sure. Didn't we have one in Calgary and they put it in Stephen Avenue Mall?
Did they?
I think so. You keep talking and I can't research right now. I am internet less free, or I am internet less right now. So yeah, my apologies. Yeah, I know what you're saying. You put something in a box or put things in a box, and on a specific date in the future, we will reopen it.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever done a time capsule?
No. No. If you want to be specific, when they had dollar bills, $1 bills, and the loonie was coming out. Gosh, I don't even know, 1980s? Was it 1980s? I don't know when we changed it over. Anyway, there was a overlap of paper $1 bills and loonies, or $1 coins, and I kept a $1 bill in a book on a shelf in my bedroom, and it sat in that book for years because I don't normally open a book. So it sat in that book for a long time.
You're kind of outing yourself there, aren't you, dear?
Well, I do still read. I read, but I don't read as often as I should, and I didn't read as much as I do now then. But that dollar bill sat in there. So it was kind of like a time capsule of a dollar bill, but have I ever done it? No. Have you ever done a time capsule?
No, but that would have been so cool. I almost feel like we need to do one now.
Okay.
You know, like, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, my mother's rafters in her garage were a time capsule to a certain extent. I remember when we were selling their house, and so we were bringing down all the boxes from the rafters, and my Barbie stuff was there, and all my brother's Star Wars toys were there, and his model train, and my dolls, and like, I think we even found like old toboggans and shit. It was pretty cool, you know, to see all that because it immediately brings out that nostalgia. So today, I was thinking we could do kind of like a, you know, virtual time capsule, like a podcastle.
A podcastle.
Oh, I don't think there's a t in it.
Castle.
A pod.
Well, anyway,
castle.
this is either going to go. That's either going to go viral, and people are going to think that's absolutely fucking amazing what you just said, or we will never speak about this again. How's that? One or the other.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm always trying to be witty, right? I'm always trying to like figure out a way to like tie it in and tie it together.
Okay.
Are you up for it?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Taking a little.
We're doing this together, so you go left, I go left.
Okay. Well, let's take our first break, and I'll get all the stuff together, and we will unearth this time castle, this pod castle.
We promise that we are not fucking crazy here. You're listening to
Hooked on Life.
Hey listener, yes you, I'm talking to you. Are you sitting there wondering how you can be a part of Hooked on Life? We are looking for corporations and people, yes people just like you, who want to help sponsor our little podcast. There's so much we can do together. If you are hooked to help, contact us right now at hookedonlifethepodcast@gmail.com and in the subject line say, I want to help. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Podbean. And we want to thank you for continuing to support Hooked on Life.
This portion of today's podcast is brought to you by Playhouse North Acting Studios. Founded by Cindy McCauley in 2004, they offer professional-level training that provides students with a competitive edge that's needed in today's industry. They provide the tools necessary to build a solid foundation, find freedom and confidence in the actor's approach to the work. Using the Meisner technique, they are committed to a positive setting for students to train and cultivate a lifelong practice through a professional approach. For more information on upcoming sessions, contact them at playhousenorthstudios@gmail.com.
Welcome back to our crazy podcast called Hooked on Life.
Because we are hooked on life.
I am Shay Bear. This is my wife, Cindy Lynn, and we are talking about time capsules.
We are.
What did you call it?
Podcastle.
Podcastle. Is that right? Podcastle? And I'm just going to, since you created a word, I'm going to create a word called remember-bamble, which means remembering and babbling at the same time. I don't think that worked, but anyway.
Wow, can you say that again?
Remember babble. Remember, I don't know.
Wow.
That's the fucking car wreck there.
And you were making fun of me the last segment.
Anyway, in our hometown of Calgary, Alberta, out west, we call it out west, Arthur L. Cameron was the mayor of Calgary in 1908, and he brought the former mayors together downtown in Calgary, and they created a time capsule that will be open in 110 years. This is a fact, people. Use your intranet that you have there.
So when would that be?
Former Mayor Nenshi and City Council and the media and the city opened it in 2020.
Really?
There you go.
My grandmother would have lived there at that time.
The sealed copper box revealed 27 items when opened, including copies of the newspapers from the time the box was sealed, the city's bylaws, a police department medal, coins, and an album of the Dominion exhibition, which Calgarians would now know now.
The Calgary Stampede.
You got it. In the time capsule, there was a New Testament. There were bylaws for the city. There was a financial report of the city from 1907. There was a voters list from 1907. There was an album of the Stampede, which was known as the Dominion exhibition of 1908. There was a report of the Grand Lodge of Oddfellows. I should have been a part of that. The report of the school board of the city in 1907. There was tercentenary stamps. There were coins, a 50 cent, a 25 cent, a 10, and a 5, printed from the Dominion of Canada, not the Bank of Canada. So there you go. There was a bunch of other stuff here. There was a report of Knox Church downtown. Mm-hmm. There was a list of the members of the police department at the time. I'm sure your dad wasn't part of that. He's not that old. There was a copy of the Eye Opener newspaper, as well as the Daily News. This is actually from the Daily Hive newspaper online that I read regularly, but I wanted to make sure that we had some semblance of understanding of what a time capsule is. So you were describing your garage as a time capsule, and I understand what you're saying. It's more of a metaphorical. I think your mom wasn't putting stuff up their rafters, putting stuff up the rafters. That's not what I meant, but putting stuff into rafters to store them, not to go, I'm going to put this up here and someone's going to fucking find this in 100 fucking years. I don't think she did that.
No.
She was a very special person to all of us, and she would have treasured everything that she had in those rafters. But putting something in a time capsule, burying it and forgetting about it is more of, even the Egyptians, when they put the pyramids together and they put the pharaoh in with their slaves and their jewels, and that, Howard Carter found King Tut, right? I don't think that was planned to be found. That was planned to be left forever. Right.
Okay, so now we have to change the title of the episode?
No.
Because obviously this is not a time capsule.
No. Let's go. I'm just getting off track, but I just wanted to share with you a little bit of background with a time capsule that I understand. Okay. Please, dear, why don't you take the reins?
Expand
and I will shut
your
the hell.
mind to the podcastle.
Okay.
All right. So when you think of the 80s, when you think back to your life between the ages of, let's say, 12 and 15 or 16, what are the big things that you start to think about?
I'm trying to think of the years. So, like the actual years. But give me a second. I'm smart enough to tie my shoes. I can figure this out. 1986, 1987. What were the things I was thinking of?
Yeah. What sort of occupied you?
Well, TV. I grew up with TV. I grew up with a lot of TV. So 86, I will call out Airwolf. I will call out A-Team. I will call out, we talked about this already, reruns of MASH. And I think during that time in the 80s, TV, yeah, that's all I have.
Yeah, so the 80s really were a huge influence of the 80s was music, movies, and television for our generation.
Okay.
And yeah, so when we think of TV, see, you come from the more masculine perspective of television.
Yeah, how do you come there?
I remember my brother loving, what was it called? Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yeah, of course.
See, I had to...
V was another one.
V. Remember where they ripped face, the animal face?
Yeah, don't laugh. That was some serious shit going on there. Don't laugh. That was some serious shit.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I had to watch a lot of my brother's television because I was the younger child. So we watched V. We watched Knight Rider. Was that a big one too?
Yeah, sure, for sure.
I'm trying to think what else we watched. And then there was my dad's shows, which were...
Oh, God. Come on. Hill Street Blues.
Yeah. MASH.
Yeah, sure.
Cheers.
Okay.
Was Cheers 80s or 90s?
80s.
Yeah,
80s. All 80s. I think they went until 92 or 93.
Yeah.
How about Magnum P.I.?
That was more my mom's show, actually.
Really?
That and Fantasy Island.
Well, and I would have said Dynasty, too, but that was another late night show.
Yes. And those have all been remade in the last year.
Or two.
Yeah.
Magnum P.I. came in a couple of years ago, but yeah, I haven't watched one episode of those.
No, me neither. There were the family shows, Sunday nights, which were the Muppet Show, Beachcombers.
This is Canadian now, yes.
Yeah, those were big ones for the family to gather around and watch.
I keep reminding you when we're doing this podcast that there are going to be some people in Sweden, because the internet is the internet, and they're going to say, who the fuck are the Beachcombers? Is this some band?
And then I would say, why don't you fucking Google it?
Did you know I met Bruno Geruzzi's son?
No.
Yes, we had a very nice heart-to-heart conversation, and I asked him how his dad was. This is like early 2000s, mid-2000s, and he had just passed.
Oh.
And it was very sad because that was a long-running show in our national identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
For sure.
Relic.
And another good Canadian show, so for all of you Swedish people or for all of you Eastern Europeaners out there, you can Google it, was The Littlest Hobo.
That was shot here, right? It was shot here in Ontario.
Who was it?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
There's a few episodes where it's shot down by the lake here, too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to rewatch it.
That's... You're not going to rewatch it. You just had that... Oh, yeah, well, I should really watch that. But I fucking won't. That's what you're trying to say. Anyway. Okay.
Anyways. And then, of course, we think of my television, which was none other than Fame, of course.
Okay.
But I also loved...
I was going to go somewhere else with that. Okay.
Fame?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say Fame.
Oh.
But continue, please.
What show did you think I was going to say?
Strawberry Shortcake. I thought you would say Strawberry Shortcake on Saturday mornings.
Well, you know what? Cartoons on Saturday mornings were pretty important. It wasn't like it's not like we could turn on the TV at any time of day and watch shows that were appropriate for our age. For us, we really did have to tune in the mornings. And during the school week, it was lunch hour. And then I think it was like an hour and a half after school. And then that was it.
I think it was the Reagan administration where he let loose on the cartoons and allowed cartooning, TV cartoons, and businesses and cereals and toys to all come together to sell to us as kids. I think it was the Reagan administration. He was his government, the Republicans then, were a hands-off approach. So as long as you weren't killing anybody, you can do whatever you want, which created that huge market boom. And so we would see, Strawberry Shortcake
on our cereal.
Yes. And then you would have the toys, and then you would have the baking oven, and then you would have the t-shirt, and then you would have I remember Gremlins and Garfield.
Oh, Garfield. Huge.
They had books. They had a rubber erasers for your pencil. They had stuffies. They had everything, not just what we grew up with, which was the syndicated cartoon line, 5-panel, 6-panel stories, but it went into this huge process. I don't even think that Charlie Brown took off as fast as Garfield and Gremlins, and I'm trying to think of so many others that
huge.
Who was that? Who was the other? Is it Peanuts?
Like Charlie Brown?
No, not Peanuts. Family. Oh,
Family Circus.
Yes, Family. Yeah. Thank you.
That was the thing too, right? Saturday morning cartoons in the Herald, in the newspaper.
Sure. Well, not just the Herald, but all newspapers.
Right.
At that time.
Take it out, and it was its own separate book.
Oh, on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
That was huge.
That didn't come out until we were older, didn't it? I don't remember. Anyway.
I don't remember. Anyways, other shows that I loved were Family Ties, Little House on the Prairie. My mom watched The Love Boat, and I love to watch that with her, which we are currently revisiting as we speak.
That's right.
And it's pretty freaking awesome, is it not?
Yeah, I think there's supposed to be a redux. There is currently, and I'm sure it'll be over soon, currently a Love Boat reality show, and then they're talking about a redux of what we watched they're doing that with Fantasy Island right now. But I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't do that because I really enjoy the watching of the classic TV of our generation again. Mm-hmm.
So let's go to movies.
Okay.
What were your big movies that shaped you?
You're just talking about overall. You're not talking about what I saw in the theater in Pacific.
No, it doesn't have to be in the theater, but movies at that time.
Okay, well, Ghostbusters was great. I may have watched that a couple times. Gremlins was another one that was really great. Friday the 13th was always awesome. It's really bad now. Like when you watch it from then, it was bad. But the slasher films, Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis hasn't aged. I mean, she still looks fantastic, but when she was 19 or 20, she looked amazing. I was babysitting one time in the 80s, and the family had cassettes, and they had a cassette of Alien with Sigourney Weaver, and that nearly changed my life. But there's one film that changed me, hopefully for the better, probably for the worse, was Jaws.
Oh, yeah.
Now, fast forward 30 years, but for Christmas a few years ago, long before pandemic, my in-laws, your parents, my wife Cindy's parents, bought me tickets, 2 tickets. So I took you, my dear.
And thank you for that.
To the Toronto Symphony Orchestra down at Roy Thompson Hall, downtown Toronto, where they played the film on the very, very large big screen with the cleaned up digital version of the movie with the music taken out, and the Toronto Symphony Orchestra played the music live to the film, and that was spellbinding. I'm very rarely shocked at amazing things, and that was fucking amazing.
It was.
Yeah, I think Jaws, I think the story, I think the actors, I didn't appreciate Robert Shaw as much as I do now then, because I was a kid. Whenever we're on the boat down south through the Caribbean, which we often are, I look down into the beautiful baby blue ocean and I think to myself, there's a fucking shark in there waiting for me because of that movie. Because of that movie. Okay. Well, what about you?
So for me, of course, we're going to take it from a different perspective, but I will share one movie that I think we probably both really dug, which was E.T.
I saw that in the drive-in theater with the Muppet movie.
Really?
Remember the Muppet movie?
Are you kidding?
With the Rainbow Connection and shit like that? That was so fucking great. Yeah, we saw it in the drive-in theater. I don't even know how old I was. I couldn't tell you. 1980.
Okay.
I don't even know when it was. 91? 81? 91? 81? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, the Muppets were a big part of my childhood. Big part of, like, happy part of my childhood. I still get quite overwhelmed with Kermit and Fozzie,
yeah. That was Happy Days you're thinking.
Sorry, I did like Fonzie as well. So for movies for me, they're going to look a little different other than E.T., which would be like Pretty in Pink.
Okay.
Breakfast Club.
Great movie.
Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
Flashdance.
Okay, it's taking a bit of a nosedive here.
You'll notice there's a theme with me.
Oh, yes, there is. Yeah.
I was destined to want to be a star, baby. Anyways, and there was a lot of great movies. Spielberg did a lot of great things. I think I was a little young to appreciate Scorsese and the work that he was doing when I was, 13, 14 years old, but definitely appreciated his cinematic contributions as I got older and gained a little bit of taste and started to date Jose.
That's all. He wants his privacy. I'm his advocate.
He doesn't want to be associated with me.
He wants to be associated, but not with us. Okay.
Where did you hang out in the 80s? When you were a teenager, like young teen, before a car, where were the hangouts?
Okay, so I lived in a pretty strict household, so I wasn't able to run the streets. My mother would call it running the streets. I didn't really run the streets as much as I'd wanted to, but there was a coin laundry down on 4th Street and by the Safeway. The idea for this podcast that I had suggested many days ago was that we would be non-specific in location, but let's just get to the point. There was a coin laundry beside the Safeway grocery store, and on the other side of that coin laundry was an arcade.
I remember it.
And it only had 10 arcade games. It was small. It was small, but they were full of bicycles out front, laid all in front of the parking spots. People got pissed off with all the bikes out front. And there was a bowling alley at All West.
Yeah.
And going into that basement in that bowling alley was a big fucking no-no. So when I was rambunctious and pissed off with my family, I took those stairs. I took those fucking stairs.
Way to be a rebel.
God, that was so long ago. We lived close together. So
we did.
Did you hang out at the arcade?
I did.
Okay, nice.
Arcade, definitely the All West bowling alley.
Yeah.
Lots of parties were had there too. Birthday parties.
Okay, yeah.
Swimming pool, Thorncliffe Greenview.
Yeah, Thorncliffe. Yeah.
Swimming pool with the library attached.
Right.
And
what's that street? That street is
Center Street.
North Mount Drive. Yeah, North Mount
Oh,
Drive.
you're talking about the outdoor pool.
Yeah.
I was talking about the indoor pool. But the outdoor pool is great too. We would take our bikes
North
and go
Mount
up
Drive,
to that pool sometimes. The mall.
Okay, which one? Deerfoot?
Totally Deerfoot, yeah.
Well, Deerfoot didn't get built until the 80s. I guess it would have
Well,
been
that's
that
when
time.
I was
Okay.
old enough. Because
Okay.
we could actually walk to Deerfoot.
Okay.
But you'll notice a theme. When we were kids, we had this whole inner world that was all our own.
Or Outer World.
Or outer world. We were free to go to the mall. We were free to hang out at the arcade. In fact, we were all sorts of places that we should have never been. And our parents never found out about it. Or at least mine didn't until now. Sorry, Dad.
And if they did, they would be like, oh, don't do that again.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Don't do that again.
Yeah, I remember my brother and I went, there was this creek, and I had to tag along with him sometimes. I'm sure he didn't appreciate it. And so we were on our bikes, of course, always on your bikes, right? That was your ticket to freedom because you could go farther. And there was a big cliff and a path. And so my brother's like, stay on the path. I'm like, you know what? I think I should walk the bike. He's like, no, stay on your damn bike and just keep your bike on the path. Well, what do you think happened? I did not keep the bike on the path, and I started to head towards this drop-off cliff. And so my brother had to literally get off his bike, throw the bike in my path so that I fell off my bike, and it stopped me from going off this cliff. But what do you think happened? I got back on my bike, walked it down the path. We went and fished, I think, in some creek gully thing that was disgusting and dirty, and then made our way back by the time the streetlights were on at night. And do you think my mom or my dad asked what happened, what we did? They didn't care because it was our life and they had their life. And it's funny because that just does not exist now. You know, I know like if the girl goes out, I think I text her 14 times before she comes back. I know every time she's moved from one location to another location. And, you know, I think there's something lost in that. There was something great about the fact that I had my own life, even when I was 14 years old. I was able to fall and scrape my leg and figure out how to get up and fix it without calling my mom or texting my mom to come and get me. You know, if I ended up getting off at the wrong bus stop, I had to figure out how to get on the right bus stop. I had to ask someone for directions. Nowadays, kids don't even take the bus. Their parents are busy shuttling them everywhere. And I think that was the beauty of our generation. When we came home from school, sometimes both parents were working. So it was our job to take the dog out and pick up his poop and walk him around the block and get supper on the table and get shit done. When we had homework, it was our job to do our homework. You know, it wasn't our parents' responsibility to keep track of our homework and to text or email our teachers if they didn't feel like the homework was simple enough for their child. It's a really different day and age. But when I think of those years, you know, I loved what that independence and that freedom gave me.
Well, a lot said there. Very good. Let's do some homework. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to
Hooked on Life.
By September 1939, the world would find itself battling against the forces of imperialism in what would later be known as World War II. Allied forces would realize fighting throughout northern Africa and Southeast Asia, but eventually world leaders acknowledged a bridgehead would need to be built into France to pressure Nazi Germany and to assist Soviet Russia in creating a second front to rid Hitler and his fellow belligerents. Plans were set to unleash the largest seaborne invasion in history. Planning for Operation Overlord began in 1943, and it would come to reality on June 6, 1944. Allied infantry and armored divisions began landing on the coast of Normandy at 6:30 a.m. The Allies used nearly 7,000 ships and landing craft to bring more than 150,000 troops onto 5 beaches. Naval vessels of all kinds, including battleships, destroyers, minesweepers, escorts, and assault craft, took part. Germany tried to defend the northern coast of France with a series of fortifications known as the Atlantic Wall. However, German defenses were often either incomplete or insufficiently manned. 150,000 troops fought bravely and accomplished on June 6th what British Prime Minister Winston Churchill would announce.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
And this was another moment in time.
Hey, dude.
I'm your husband. You don't have to call me dude.
I was being cool.
You don't like me calling you dude. Oh, do I call you? No, I've never called you dude. I called you...
Man.
I called you man.
I'm not your fucking man.
That's right.
I'm your chick.
And usually I say, come on, man.
But then I say to you...
I'm not your fucking man.
Hey, boy.
Yeah, you watch that boy shit.
There we go. That's right. That's right.
Oh, God.
All right. So we were talking about movies and TV. We didn't even get into music, really. What music you were listening to. The 80s is just a wonderful cesspool of all things awesome in music, but we didn't even delve into that.
Okay.
That's going to have to be for another episode, I think.
Okay.
But what I wanted to talk about was, you know, some of the deeper things, like what was it like at home? What was it like at school in the 80s? What did junior high, what was that experience like for you?
When I think of middle school, junior high school, I always think about being very hot, like temperature-wise. I always felt the school was too hot. I felt always sweaty and shitty.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry that was your experience.
I know. I don't know. Like it snows in September, so where we come from, so the heater seems to be always on. Didn't you feel that way? I was always fucking sweaty in class. No. Not nervous. Oh, I'm nervous. I have to speak now. I'm gonna get all sweaty. It's like it's 40 fucking degrees in here, and I have to hold a book. This sucks. Like, really sucks. If I were to ever create a prison sentence for the new age government, I would be like, okay, you're wearing a cardigan and 3 t-shirts under that, and, you know, a thick pair of fucking jeans, and then you're going to hold this math textbook for 3 hours. I'm not very happy.
You seemed really happy in junior high.
Really?
I thought you were happy.
I was always so sweaty.
You had braces, right, in junior high?
Yes, that's why. Is that what you're trying to get at? You had braces? Oh, is that because you had braces? You felt hot and sweaty because you had fucking braces?
No.
It's like, no, it's not because of that. It was, the school was too fucking hot and the windows would never open. That's why.
I don't think the windows opened. I think you're right about that.
Anyway, and we're going through an awkward time in our lives too, right?
I do remember your white Levi jeans.
That was in high school.
Oh, was it? I remember those.
What a dumb idea. White jeans, blue pen.
You wore them well.
Thank you. I don't know whatever. I don't have them. I don't know what happened to them, but I'm sure they're in some dump somewhere.
Yeah. I wonder if they'd be like all deteriorated now.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure they are.
For me, when I think of, you know, my teenage years, I think of the social pressures of making sure that I was wearing the right clothing, you know, that I knew how to blow dry my hair high enough and spray it just the right way so that it looked perfect, you know, trying to teach myself how to put on the blue eyeliner and the pink lipstick. And it was a real dance to try to be part of not even the cool kids, because I definitely was not one of the popular girls. I kind of detested them. I thought they were a bit shallow, but more just to stay under the radar, to be, you know, acceptable enough that it wouldn't bring attention to me. I like to get my attention other ways, not necessarily that way. So when I think of junior high, I think of the social aspect of that and managing the relationships and the boys and the popularity. And then throw on top of that we were actually like trying to learn something. And it wasn't like today, like you couldn't just hand things in late. You could fail a class. And if you failed a class, you were in big trouble when you got home.
You'd have to redo it.
Yeah.
You'd have to take the whole fucking year again. If you failed class, you'd have to do the whole fucking thing again.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. They're just pushing kids through. But I want to just go back. I want to add to what you were saying. I remember growing up, and we were middle class. So we were certainly middle class. And I remember some kids that had more than us, and it showed, in brand name clothing and Polo and Levi's and
Ralph Lauren.
Yeah, and like the logos, right? The logos. I remember some kids didn't have much, and we were more unforgiving as an era to kids that had less than we are now. Mm-hmm. I think we might be the same unforgiving, but we're not as vocal and showy.
Yeah, that's an astute observation.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Astute. There you go, everybody. I am an astute observationist.
Who looks like Jesus. No, that's true, though. I think this generation now, they're all about inclusivity and diversity and that everybody can be their own them. It certainly was not like that for us.
But with today, there still seems to be an undercurrent. So we say that, yes, we're all together. Yes, kumbaya. Yeah, we're all together. But there still seems to be an undercurrent of, but they have less than us, or they have more than us. So we may be more forgiving, but I would argue we may not be more forgiving. We're more quiet about it. We weren't quiet about it back then. I remember kids that didn't have as much, even in elementary school, that were cordoned off from the schoolyard, not by teachers, but by kids.
Oh, sure.
If they had bad BO or their shoes were dirty or
overweight.
I remember one kid in elementary school, his name is Oren. I haven't seen, I don't even know where he is. If he's out there, message us, please. It would be great to hear from you. But he had very poor handwriting, and he used a pencil, like most of us did at that time. We didn't use pens in elementary school. And his writing was blurred because of his writing. And it was very, very poor. I remember that to this day. And the pencil smeared everywhere. And it was not good. Like in class, it was not good. Not by the teacher, but by, I don't want to even say the rest of us, because it makes it sound like I was party to that. And I don't think I was ever party to ganging up on somebody and making them feel like shit, because I always felt like shit to begin with. So I don't think I would have made more people or another person feel like shit because I felt like shit. Maybe I did. I don't think so. God forbid I did. Yeah, I think we're more welcoming now than before. Even immigration. We seem to be more accepting of more immigrants than when we were growing up.
Yeah.
As a society.
Yeah. I think that's one better part of kids nowadays is that they seem to have a greater acceptance, and that bullying component that was actually very prevalent in our day and age, whether it was like emotional isolation or like verbal bullying or even physical bullying, that is shunned upon. And I think that's a real positive thing. Okay, you got a little bit more time capsule-y stuff in you?
Yeah, sure. How about this? At the beginning of the 80s, the Cold War was not warming at all. But by 1989, the Berlin Wall was fucking coming down. And we ended that whole decade. I will never say the collapse of the Soviet Union, because I don't feel personally it was a collapse of anything. I feel like it was a new era. Now, we're not there anymore. But from 1987... when Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. It took 2 years for the wall to start coming down, and it ended in 1989, which is really phenomenal and probably would never have been thought of in 1980. Well, it wasn't thought of in 1980 because it would have come down in 1981. So that was a really beautiful moment to end the 80s. I know that, us Generation Xers are not just this podcast in itself are not talking necessarily strictly about the 80s, because we have the 90s that we've lived through and everything else. But, our formative years were in the 80s, and that would have been a real moment, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Huge.
I know that the Challenger disaster in 1986 was certainly also a moment for all of us to look back and go, wow. I remember coming back from my lunch hour at school and my mom saying that this terrible tragedy had just happened. And yeah, they were just, they're talking on the news about it over and over and over again while I'm trying to process what the hell happened. And even to this day, it's still a tragedy. There are moments from the 80s that I go, wow, that was really amazing.
Prince Charles and Princess Diana's wedding was very huge. I remember getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning with my mom to watch that.
I did not do that. But Live Aid,
Huge.
1985, that was huge.
The movie The Day After scarred my nightmares for many months.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw that until I got older.
All right. So one final question for you before we slowly wrap things up. What do you think from your teenage years, from being a Gen Xer, from growing up in the time period that you did, what do you think is the biggest thing that defined you in who you have become now? I can start if you want to think on that. For me, I think, and I touched upon it earlier, the ability to be independent and the ability to fail. Thank you to my mom and dad for that. And to have a supportive home when I failed allowed me the opportunity to believe that I could do whatever the hell I wanted to. And I think that has afforded me to take many chances in my life and many risks. And sometimes I failed and sometimes I did really well because of it. And I'm very, very grateful that I was afforded that. And I think having that environment helped me to do that. You know, those days of leaving on my bike at 7 a.m. and coming home 7 p.m. I think that gave me confidence in myself. What about you?
That was really nice, what you just said.
Thanks.
We're specific in the 1980s, is that what we're talking about?
Well, from your teenage years, when you look at the environment that you were raised in.
When I look back at the self-reflection of indoctrination of consumerism.
Wow.
Yeah. We were talking about brand names a minute ago and, you know, how kids are being ostracized and all. Let's get away from that. What I'm saying is the brand names had a big part in it. The consumerism aspect was, well, and still is, but was really in high gear. You know, Christmas, Valentine's, Halloween, travel. It was a boom time for the West, for sure. And the West being, you know, the Western nations, you know, United States, Canada, even parts of Europe too, of course. And it was a boom time where consumerism was preached. It was not just preached, it was really pushed upon. So I feel like a lot of the things I was receiving as Christmas gifts were made in Taiwan and made in China. And, you know, they were made of plastic and they would break and then we would buy more stuff. Like I wouldn't get a Christmas gift replacement if it broke. I did get a lot of stuff that was made from other countries. I guess globalization had just started, but I remember consume things was really, and they never said it. My mom never said, oh, we need to be consumers. We need to spend money and consume. She never did that, but she never said that, but she did do that. I think we all did that. At least our parents did that. Mm-hmm. Your mom would see brand new cookies with. My
mom got hit in the face buying a Cabbage Patch doll.
That's fucking crazy.
If you can imagine that.
That's fucking crazy. No, but she would also buy limited edition cookies with color rainbow chocolate chip cookies.
Very much so. Oh, I saw this. It looked new.
Yeah.
Oh, this is new.
That's called consumerism.
Yeah, she was big in that.
They wanted you to do that. Yeah. So, you know, Orbit's soda, that's another one that people didn't last a few years, but Pepsi Clear. Cherry Coke is back, but Cherry Coke was huge in the 80s too. And that made us buy more Coke, right? That's just that's what it is. So, yeah, consumerism, I felt like I was for sure, but I feel like our generation was indoctrinated in consumerism. And then in the 1990s, we just took it to another level.
Yeah.
Instead of buying 2 pairs of jeans, you'd buy 4 pairs of jeans.
Right. And instead of putting patches on them like our moms did, you just threw them out when they got a hole in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not throw them out. We would donate them. We would. Yeah. So Salvation Army is a huge part in my life. I should really do more for them. My mom used to give my clothes, of course, when we were growing up, we wouldn't fit anymore. We'd put them in a garbage bag and we would take them to the Salvation Army drop-off box where they would redistribute them to other people in need. And my mother was a big proponent of that, the Sally Ann, she would call it. And, you know, had I known that they would have helped me get sober in 2009, I think I would have probably taken it more seriously. But then that's another story. But yeah. That's the 1980s for me too, right?
Yeah, it's funny that you said that. I would have thought you would have said music because music is such a huge part of your adult life. I thought that would have been a huge influence for you.
Oh, yeah, it was.
But I like the consumerism. All right, we're going to wrap today with this. You know you're a Gen Xer if. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
You know you're a Gen Xer if you know the lyrics of a Weird Al Yankovic song.
Okay, I was going to say Flock of Seagulls, but okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead. That's good.
So give me a title of a Weird Al Yankovic song.
I'm fat.
That's right.
Okay, good.
Or eat it.
Eat it. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
Very good. You know who these people were and you knew what they drove. Are you ready?
Okay.
Luke, Bo, and Daisy.
The General Lee. That's Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I have to say Daisy was so delicious in her Jeep. She had a Jeep, a white Jeep. Oh my God. Okay.
Can I tell you a really funny story about Daisy Duke? So my brother had a magazine, and of course her picture was in it, but it also had a diet that she was advocating that helped her get into her Daisy Duke shorts.
Catherine Bach.
Was that her name?
Yes.
Okay. And I remember ripping out the page because I wanted to follow the diet because I wanted to be able to fit in the Daisy Duke shorts. And I don't know, I feel like I'm confessing, I don't know if my brother ever knew where his Daisy Duke picture went.
This isn't about to sexualize anybody or anything, but Catherine Bach had some big boots to fill in the 80s with Heather Thomas, Christy Brinkley, Heather Locklear.
Yeah. Who was Wonder Woman?
Linda Carter.
There, come on.
Oh my God. Once again, this is not to sexualize.
No, and I think we need a future episode where we sexualize the men.
Okay.
But we'll do that in another episode.
I will not be on that list.
Okay. You will know what these three things are. Atari, Coleco, and Intellivision.
Wow. Yeah, video game consoles. We had a Coleco.
We had an Atari. No, sorry, we didn't have any of those. We had a Genesis Sega, but that was later on.
After, yeah.
It was later on. We weren't really a video game family. Number 4, you know what pegging your jeans means. And I know you know it because I remember your jeans pegged so neatly and precisely.
Pegging?
Yeah, you know how you peg it in and then you roll them up at the bottom? That's called pegging your jeans.
Oh, like skaters used to do that.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Just
Is that what they're called? With pegging?
Pegging your jeans.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And now number 5, you had a subscription to Columbia House.
Yeah, we didn't have that.
What?
We had Reader's Digest, I think, for a little while.
It was the best deal.
Really?
Because you got like 10 CDs for 99 cents.
Yeah, okay, I didn't do that.
Oh my God.
Sorry. Nice though. That's cool.
Oh,
I do remember Columbia House though.
Huge. I think I had 5 or 6 memberships over my young life. And so I probably had like 60 CDs from that organization.
Just to give you a little heads up, I'm sure there's some people out there that have no idea what the fuck you're talking about with CDs.
And they should.
Google.
Thank you.
Google it.
Well done. All right. And on that note,
thank you for Googling to find us. I'm sure you did. And if you didn't, use Google next time to come find us. We'd like to thank Simon Says in the booth for his wonderful assistance in making this program possible. We'd like to thank all the team at Audacity for assisting us in programming. We'd also like to thank the City of Calgary for giving us all the information we needed for this podcast. We'd like to give a good shout out to dailyhive.com for letting us use their information on Google. I'd like to thank my wife for being the creator.
The creator, that makes me sound like God.
Well,
I don't mind that.
You are in this house. Thank you, dear.
Well, thank you, dear. And I would like to thank the Solid Gold Dancers for inspiring me.
There you go.
Let's go get our groove on, shall we?
You have been listening to yet another episode of
Hooked on Life. That was a good one.
If you enjoyed this episode of Hooked on Life and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe to our channel. We would also love to hear from you. If you have any ideas for future Hooked on Life podcasts, feel free to drop us a line. You can stay up to date with Cindy and Shane by following them on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, don't worry about tonight's sunset, because there will always be one tomorrow. See ya!